Okay,
Okay.
hi, welcome back. I'm Chava, clarity coach and expert in Chinese medicine and flinging things on the floor and in Chinese astrology. And I'm here with one of my favorite people ever, Fiona Dwyer, who I met through a networking group, I think,
Yes, it was.
for women in business. So Fiona has her own PR agency and she teaches people to do their own PR. And that might not seem like the most obvious connection, but we just clicked. And she has very kindly volunteered to help me out today. This is the third episode in which I'm having another person on with the added stress of lining up schedules and making sure that everyone's Zoom is working. But so far it seems to be going very well. And I hope you enjoy this session. So what we're going to be doing is just reviewing Fiona's personality chart so that I can explain to you, the viewers, what it is, what this is, what I do, how it's useful. And I have Fiona here because I thought that it would be much better to have a real live person asking questions than for me to try and think up what sort of questions people might ask. So Fiona, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks very much for having me.
I'm really excited. So first of all, do you have any idea what you're getting into? I guess.
No idea at all.
Okay. Brilliant.
No idea at all, but I'm really excited to learn. So, I'm really excited because it completely fascinates me. So no, I'm really looking forward to it. And I know you're an expert in all of this. So I'm really looking forward to your insights, Hava.
Okay, great. Yes. So I specifically wanted someone new to this scene so that you can just ask any questions you have, anything that comes up. If anything I say is unclear, then feel free to just stop me and ask anything that comes to mind.
Have no fear, Hava. I will ask questions. I'm a journalist.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
That's what I do.
Wonderful. Perfect. I'm so glad we were able to make this work out. Cool. So what I do basically is Chava, I do coaching for women who want to really learn to understand themselves and know what they're going to do with all of their strengths and all of their gifts. And one of the tools that I use besides standard repertoire of coaching tools is I use the stems and branches system of Chinese personality charting, which is usually translated in English as astrology, which I think is not a great translation, first of all, because it can scare people off. And secondly, because this has nothing to do with predicting the future or telling you if you're going to get married or, under what phase of the moon you need to do different things in life. I know nothing about Western astrology. I'm just like throwing things out there. But it is a system that has been used for multiple thousands of years to help people understand their personalities, how they interact with the world around them, and how they interact with other people who have different sorts of balances of energies in their personality. And I have found it very, very useful for helping women understand, for helping people understand their motivations, their drives, their strengths, and incredibly useful for helping people with relationship issues. So helping people understand what they need to get from other people in order to feel happy or supported, and or what areas where they may be more sensitive than the average person are. And when I was studying coaching, when I tried to work without this tool, it just felt like we were taking so much longer than we needed to in order to really get down to understanding what the issues are, what people need to know about themselves, and how they can make their lives better and improve their interactions with the people around them. Yeah, but I know that it sounds very odd to our ears. And so I'm going to try and explain as I go what each of the things are. And you should feel free to stop me, like I said, if you have any questions.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to look at different parts of your personality. And we're going to use a couple different metaphors, traditional metaphors, to describe it. So first of all, we describe people as being like a tree or being like a plant. So you're going to have your root and your stem and your branches, and your little fence that supports you, right? You have the, the little baby trees, and they give them their little supporting fence.
Yeah.
And what influences might try and knock you down or shake you up, and what kinds of, we probably won't get there. I don't think I've ever gotten to the climate energy with anyone, but what sort of climate do you need in order to grow and be a happy tree? We probably will not get there in an hour. And then to describe the different ways that people's personality can express itself, we're going to use the metaphor of the 5 energies, which are sometimes known as the 5 elements in Chinese philosophy. So that's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Some of which are more intuitive to us because we're kind of familiar with 4 elements like water and fire. Most people can have a picture of. The wood and the metal, I think, are a little harder to grasp because we don't necessarily have a philosophical background for them. And the earth is also pretty much, if you think of metaphorical, philosophical earth, that's probably also about the same. So I'm just going to explain each one as it comes up. They won't necessarily all be relevant for your personality because we all have a different mix. And for most of us, there are 1 or 2 that are more prominent than others. And again, if you have any questions, stop me and ask them, you know the drill.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
So, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your root energy. Where if you picture yourself as, a little tree growing up out of the ground, then your root energy is kind of like that's, it's kind of like your gifts. It's what you are bringing into the world as you grow. You're drawing this energy up through your roots, and then you're sharing it with the world around you. And it's an energy that kind of helps provide a basis for the other things, the other parts of your personality to express themselves.
Okay.
So in your case, your root energy is the earth. It's the Yin Earth. I'll probably not try and explain what that is, but we'll leave yin and yang for another day, maybe. But so the earth, I think, is one that's relatively easy for us to grasp. It's about nurturing and taking care of people and stability and home, like a Hamish feeling, or I think there's a Danish word that everyone's talking about, but I'm not sure how it's pronounced, tuga, or but a feeling of like home, security, safety, warmth, all of that is expressed with the metaphor of the earth.
Right, that makes sense because I am a home bird and I do like looking after people, and I do like making sure that everybody's doing okay. So that's perfectly me. Yes.
Yeah, I know you're a wonderful mentor to people in your trainings because you're always so caring and focused and making sure that everyone gets seen and taken care of. Yeah, so this doesn't necessarily mean that like you have to be a housewife, or that you have to be a homemaker, or even that you're going to be a great parent, because you can take your gifts and you can do whatever you want with them, but this is a gift that you have and that you can share with the world around you just by being yourself and doing what comes naturally to you.
Well, I do all of that as well.
Yeah.
So, family, children, husband, home. So yes, so I'm not unusual in that. Many of us do that, working mothers. So yes, but always I think we always try and put our home first, don't we? Make sure everybody else is okay, and then you do the next bit.
That is definitely true for a lot of women. Yeah, and and that really is something that like it comes very naturally to the earth energy, which everyone gets an extra boost of earth energy when they become parents, so that they can care for their children and take care of them. And I think it's very common for people with families to get an extra dose of that energy and that need to care for people. But, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, cool. And then, so the next energy that we're looking at in your chart is what's called the stem energy. So if you picture, you have your roots, and then you have the body of the tree, the stem that's growing up. or I guess the trunk, we'd probably say in English. This was not necessarily translated by someone who knew about botany. So in your case, the stem energy, which it kind of represents what you do in the world, what kind of effect you have on the world around you. So if someone might express the same energy in many different ways. So you might, if you're a very creative person, you could be creative, through cooking, and you could be creative in marketing, or you could be creative as an artist or as a politician. There's all sorts of ways that we can express our basic energy, but they're all going to have a similar sort of effect. If you're a creative person, I'm just going for that because I think it's an easy one for people to grasp. Then no matter what field you're working in, you're going to be coming up with new ideas, and you're going to be combining existing processes to try and make them better. And you're going to be open to hearing about new ways of doing things. And so you'll have the same basic interaction with the ideas around you, no matter what field you're in. And so that's kind of your STEM energy. It's what you bring to whatever you're doing.
Right. Okay. So, so that comes from. So you've got your branch.
Mm-hmm.
And then your stem's coming off your branch. So I'm like, does Earth go through all of that then?
Yes. So no matter what you do, you specifically having the root Earth energy, no matter what you do, you're going to bring that Earth energy in.
Right. Okay.
And it's going to influence all of the other aspects. Because we're kind of going from the biggest influence down to the smaller ones.
Right.
So everything is going to be in an interaction with that basic Earth energy that you bring.
Right. Okay. So when it branches off then to the creativity side, that would be for me then that would be my writing.
Right. Okay. Sorry. So I know it was a bad metaphor that I used, because I said creativity. I was just trying to use that as an example of how a specific personality aspect could be expressed in different things. So
it could be anything.
It could be anything. So in your case, your STEM actually isn't creativity. I just chose that because sorry, I chose that because I thought it was one that I could more easily describe how it.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
So what's my STEM energy then?
So your STEM energy actually is also Earth.
Right. Okay. I'm very earthy then.
You have double Earth energy, which is, you can't do that with all of the energies. You can't have double fire or double water, because apparently those personalities are too extreme to actually be a healthy, balanced individual. But Earth specifically, you can have a double root and stem energy. And then, like you said, you end up with someone who's very earthy. But whenever that happens, then there is going to be also this dose of wood energy, which represents the creativity and the openness to change, the kind of that goes along with that. If you have a lot of Earth energy, a lot of home, nurturing, stability, security, it's always going to call in some energy of like, but maybe we could try something new. Maybe we'll change it up a little.
Yes. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't, but I understand what you mean by that.
Well, I think that you ran off and
I'm not frightened
your
of
own business.
Well, yeah, got my own business, work from home. Yes. I'm not frightened of trying something new. And in fact, if something's there, I think it's quite novel and I think it will add something, then I would introduce it for sure. Mm-hmm. Yes. But yes, now I work from home, so I'm here all the time.
You brought your creativity right into the home.
Indeed, I did. Yes. Maybe it's a stabilizing factor then if I'm Earth. maybe.
Yeah, well, the earth provides a lot of stability, and what it needs is not to get stuck. It needs things to come in and shake it up sometimes. So that, yes. So there's flow and there's renewal and there's change, because yeah, we don't want to get too stuck.
No. And it gives you time. Would that include wanting that sort of freedom of time so that you can choose when you can do things?
Mm-hmm.
Would that come into that part? Because obviously, when you work for yourself, when you're working from home, you could choose, for instance, to go for a dog walk in the middle of the day, whereas,
just for example,
as opposed to if you're working in an office or you're working away from home, you wouldn't be able to do that because you would have the confines of your workplace.
That's true. So there's kind of two opposing factors there. So one is that the wood energy, that's called the controlling energy. So that wood energy that you have, which it's not the stem or the branch or any of those, it's a separate thing. It's like it's kind of like what you get passionate about. Okay, so we have the energy that you just bring into the world and that you are, like, just by being, you are increasing the amount of earth energy in the world just by being yourself.
Hey.
But then what you get absorbed by, what you get passionate about, is this wood, which is the creativity and the new things and the renewal.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so I think that wanting to have control over your schedule, that's a very wood thing. It's like, I want to be able to do things when they're right, and I want to be open to changing the schedule if I want to. And the thing is that people who have a lot of wood, who have a lot of creative energy, often have trouble working from home because they don't have the discipline to make sure that they actually get all of their work done and that they keep track of everything. So I think
I'm quite good at that.
Yeah, so I think you like working from home and having the options because of the wood, but you're able to do it and to still get your work done and to stay on track because you have so much earth.
Right. Okay, I was worried then that I was going against the grain, so to speak. So no, that makes sense, because I like to write lists.
Mm-hmm.
I write lists so that I know exactly what I'm doing. I have my diary, and I write everything in my diary, if there's an appointment or even what I'm going to do that day or what I have done that day work-wise. Or if there's any sort of outstanding things, if I have an appointment or the children have an appointment or anything like that needs extra, I stick it in my diary so I know exactly what's going on that day. So I can completely see what has to happen. That's not in a controlling way. Mm-hmm. It sounds very controlling, I think. Not in a controlling way, just so that I know. I think it's because I feel a responsibility to, I have to make sure that my work gets done. But also I have a responsibility as a mother. I have to remind everybody what they have to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. So if someone has to do something or they have to, go somewhere, I always have to remind people, because otherwise, why didn't you remind me, Mum? And I'm like, well, at some point you've got to think of these things for yourself. So I have to remind everybody about things. So I have to, hence my lists, hence I have a calendar in the kitchen where everyone has a column, so that, and I'm probably the only person that looks at it. Actually, my daughter does look at it sometimes, but my husband and my son rarely, if ever, look at it.
Yeah, they say it's one of the things about women working from home or even in the office, that women understand that someone has to actually stay on top of all these things. And so there's an additional mental workload of keeping track of everything.
Yes.
And it actually reminds me, I heard was a quote from, I think that there was a movie about Johnny Cash and the American singer and songwriter, and his wife, June Carter.
Walk the Line. Was it Walk the Line, that one?
So probably. Yeah. So I don't know if they actually said this, but apparently in the movie, there's a scene where, I haven't seen it, but where Johnny Cash says, oh, things take care of themselves. Let's just do it and it'll all sort itself out. And his wife goes, no, things don't sort themselves out. Other people sort things out for you. And then you think that things are easy because they just magically get taken care of.
Yes. Yeah, magic. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? Things magically happen. Yes, I get that.
if there's a woman doing them, then they magically happen.
Yeah, just by magic. If only I had a wand.
Yeah. Well, no, but that absolutely is the listing and the scheduling and the keeping track on top of everything. That feeling of responsibility you have can come from the earth energy, but you also have your support energy, which we were talking about. If you're a little baby tree and you have the little tube around you that protects you and stops you from falling over. My mother grew fruit trees, and so like our whole yard was covered with these little plastic tubes all winter. So in your case, the energy that supports you and helps you grow to be your biggest, best self is the metal energy. Where the metal is all about schedules and lists and keeping everything in order. One of the exciting things that I find really exciting about the system is that the 5 energies map pretty much perfectly onto the big 5 personality traits, which is like the recognized by science, actually testable system of analyzing personalities. And so if you do that that mapping from the one system onto the other, then the metal maps onto to trait conscientiousness.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so that conscientiousness, as well as the nurturing and the responsibility of the earth, the conscientiousness and the list making helps you express all of your caring for people and your feeling of responsibility towards them.
Right, okay. Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's not just about, say, being a good student. That would be conscientious in life then, making sure everything goes to plan.
Yeah. I think trait conscientiousness breaks down into orderliness, and I don't remember what the other one is, but it's
I don't function well when things are messy. No, I like things to be ordered. Yes.
Yeah, that's the metal that supports you and lets you do.
So when there's clutter, say in the house, if you need to like tidy something, I just don't function because all I see is that, and I'm like until I've tidied it. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it bothers me, and I can't rest until it's sorted. Yes, I understand that.
Yeah. So that's great. It's great that you naturally learned what you need to do in order to support yourself and to allow you to do your best work.
And when you say it's metal, is it just metal, or is it a particular metal, or?
It's just metal. Though this metal doesn't break down into yin and yang. But metal represents a lot of additional things. Metal represents the ability to make decisions. It represents the feeling of gratitude and appreciation, which it all comes to, it all does come back down to the same things, because in order to make decisions, you have to know what's the better option and what's the worst option. And to appreciate something, you have to be able to value it and see, or to feel grateful for something, to say, this is good. I'm making a value judgment. This is a good thing, and so I value it. And in order to schedule or to make lists, you also have to be able to make that same sort of judgment of, how much can I fit in here? What has to be done first?
So prioritizing, although I expect a lot of myself. So I always think that I should be able to do 10 things then.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, when someone challenged me once, I had a coach, and she said, but how long does it actually take you to do that specific task? And I went, well, actually, and so we went through all of my lists that I had written, that I said, well, I'll be able to do that then. And she says, well, hang on a minute, I don't think you will. So from a time perspective, I always expect that I should be able to do things in a smaller amount of time than is actually that I should actually allow for. So now I'm better at saying, well, actually, that's going to take me 2 hours. I can't do it in 20 minutes because it doesn't happen that way. So when I have my list, I have to sort of spread out how long it's going to take me to do things, because otherwise I would constantly feel like I was on the back foot and I was on catch up. Whereas if I'd actually planned it better and given myself the time that each task needed, then I would actually feel more of a sense of achievement. So I've learned that over the years.
For sure. Yeah, that's something that goes along with the earth often is expecting that you can do everything and take care of everyone. I did the same thing for a while with lists. For a while, I had ridiculous expectations of myself, just and what I could accomplish in a day, just in general, as a person, as someone who was working from home because of COVID, as whatever. And at some point, I did the same thing when I wrote my list of things to do tomorrow. I didn't just prioritize it. I also took out my calendar and I tried to actually fit everything in. And I remember finishing up one list or finishing up one day of the calendar, and I still had about half my list left. And yeah, that was when I realized I'm literally expecting more of myself than a human being can do in that amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we really need to learn to be respectful of what our actual abilities are.
Yes. And of our own time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now, one of the things that I love most that I learned this year is apparently in 1985, the year before I was born, someone did a study and to see if they could determine by how much people underestimate the amount of time it will take them to do something, and concluded that on average, it takes 2.71 times as long to do something as people think it will.
Wow. Yes, I can believe that.
Yeah, and so I love the precision of the 0.71. But so now my rule of thumb is if I haven't actually sat down and thought and planned, it'll probably take 3 times as long as my instinct tells me that it should.
And the thing is, if you give yourself that time, if you do it in a shorter amount of time than you've planned, then it's a bonus because you can either catch up or you can go make yourself a cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Before you start the next thing.
Yeah, no, and I think it's definitely good to learn to give yourself rewards for getting things done, like making a cup of tea and just sitting and appreciating. Because another thing that I see people do a lot is they just, oh, I finished early, so now I can do even more work. And then because they underestimated the amount of time it will take to do the second piece of work, they end up either being late for the next thing or staying late or finishing work later than they planned. And then they end up feeling, because they finished early, they end up in a situation where they feel bad and rushed and stressed. And that doesn't really encourage our brain to want to do that again.
No, it doesn't. Quite right. In fact, I learned that from you, Heather. All to do with that, about how about making sure that you have that you celebrate after everything, and also but because of how it affects your brain, because then it will make you want to do it again another time.
Oh, I'm so happy. I talk nonstop about things like this, so it's very exciting to hear that you're actually that it's useful to you and that you're remembering it.
It really is very useful. No, it is. It's so useful.
Yeah, so that is literally one of the many ways our brain works. Is if we feel happy after doing something, our brain will want to do it again, as in it will literally increase the thickness of the connection between the neurons that were just activated. And if we feel sad about doing something, then our brain will try and make it harder for us to do it again. And this is
a very clever brain. Clever brain.
You're very well programmed, actually. But this can be a problem for a lot of people, because if, for example, say you're supposed to do 4 physiotherapy exercises every morning, like I am, and maybe some morning you're very rushed and you only do 3 exercises. If you then start beating yourself up and saying, oh, why I feel so bad that I didn't do the 4th exercise and whatever, your brain will try and stop you from doing the exercises again, because
any of them,
because, oh, I did 3 exercises and then I felt really bad, so probably I shouldn't do that again. So yes, exactly like you said, it's so important to celebrate every accomplishment and to make ourselves feel happy after any activity that we want to do again in the future.
And cross it off your list.
And cross it off your list for sure.
That's what I do. Cross it off my list.
Yes.
I like stationery, so I like highlighters. So I like to make things. So if there's highlighters involved as well when I'm making my orderly lists, then I'm a very happy bunny.
That's beautiful. My sister loves stationery and collects it. I like things simple. I have 10 of these pens, and when I start getting low, I go out and I buy another 10. And I don't know how many of these notebooks, and when I start getting low, I go out and buy new ones, and everything is the same, and that makes me happy.
Well, that's good.
I know that
we have to find what makes us happy and what makes us work.
Absolutely. Okay, but I have to ask now, what's your favorite color of highlighter?
Oh, well, probably green, because green is actually my favorite color.
Okay.
So yes, green. But I do like to, when I highlight, it has to be there has to be a reason for the highlight. It's not just random highlighting. So highlight, it would be because that is for a particular client, or that is for a particular piece of work. So I'd have a different color depending on, what I'm doing at the time.
That's amazing.
Because then I can just look and I can see what I need to do.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. I just remember when I was in Chinese medicine school, at some point we were given a case to analyze, like based on one of our teacher's actual patients. And I think we were just supposed to go through and mark what information was relevant and what wasn't. And at some point he wrote, and she always uses an orange highlighter when she's in school. And no one marked that as relevant. And then he went, she always uses orange. How is that not relevant to you people?
Yes. What is it about
color
orange
that she needs to surround herself with? Yeah. What does it represent?
Yeah. Yeah, green is my go-to color for things like that. Yeah.
Well, green is creativity.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Well, we didn't actually make it through all of your map, but I want to be respectful of your time. And I think we probably won't manage to get through everything that I planned, because it will take about 2.5 times longer than I thought it would.
Oh, isn't it 2.17 or 71?
2.71, exactly. Exactly, because you're very orderly and conscientious, and so you keep track of the exact numbers. Whereas I'm a water personality. I'm like, I'm going to go with the flow. It's close enough. It worked.
Well, I have a meeting in 15 minutes.
Okay.
But so we've got another 5 minutes. If we can do anything in 5 minutes, that's good.
All right, sure.
We've got 5 or 10 minutes, if that helps.
All right.
or we can reconvene.
Wonderful. We'll see if we can get through your branch energy, and then we'll have finished at least the little tree.
Yeah.
Even if we haven't built the whole yard around it. Okay, wonderful. So your branch energy represents how you interact with people and with things around you. So your root and your stem energy are kind of like your basic personality, like what you are bringing into the world whenever you're just being yourself. And then the branch energy, if we're picturing like a little tree or a little bush or something, right? The branches are what the people see when they look at you, basically. That's kind of like, and it's what you're presenting to people, and it's the parts of you that they can see and touch easily. And so it's more about relationships. And in your case, your branch energy is the water. It's the Yin Water. And it's also because.
And what does that mean then? If it's water, what does that mean?
Yes. So water represents, just like I said, I have a lot of water and I'm very go with the flow. Water represents the ability to listen and to be present and to feel comfortable in different situations. Water can fit into all sorts of different containers and look natural in there. Water absorbs everything. So you can listen and you can be present and you can make people feel like you're there for them. Water is very, water has a great deal of strength, but it's not always as evident as, say, metal or earth, right? Water is one of the strongest forces on earth. It created the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
But if you guys say, you know, would you rather fall on metal or on earth or on water, most people would take water, because when in small amounts, or when nothing important is happening, you could say, in a small time period, water is very flexible, and water accepts everything, and water provides support for everything. But when it really has to, water is the strongest element there is, when it needs that strength. And so water is connected to willpower, to resilience, to fortitude. In the big 5 personality traits, water corresponds to neuroticism. So as in, if you have unhealthy water, if you have low water, if you don't have enough water in your personality, then you're going to be more sensitive to negative emotions and things that happen around you. And if you have strong, healthy water, you're going to be very resilient, and you're going to be emotionally stable.
Okay. So is this my branch?
That's your branch. Yeah.
So my branch is water. So if my branch is water, does that mean I have a good dose of water then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a good dose.
That all, everything that you said makes sense to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have, so in your case, your energies would be like, first place wood, second place water, and then the metal, and then the metal and the wood about the same, and then fire would be the last.
Okay.
And yeah, and so we definitely don't have time in 5 minutes to go over each of the energies, but you feel free to ask me later. So there's just the one more thing I was going to say about the branch energy is because it describes relationships and people interacting with other people. In addition to the metaphor of the elements, of the energies, there's also the metaphor of the animals, which are the zodiac animals that most people are familiar with if they know anything about Chinese personalities, right? You can be a dog person, or a monkey person, or a dragon person.
I'm a rooster.
And you're a rooster. Yes. And so the rooster represents, it represents this combination of the strength and the resilience, and as well as the sensitivity to what's going on around them, and the concern for order, because you have more metal down. The branch energy is water, but it has also some metal connected to it. So if you think about a rooster, I grew up on a farm, we had chickens, and the rooster's job is to lay down the schedule for everyone. He decides when everyone gets up, and then he tells his hen and his chicks where they're going to go eat. And then he flies up somewhere so he can look from above, and he can make sure that they stay safe. And if there's any danger that comes along, he gives the alarm, and he scouts ahead, and he checks everything out and makes sure that it's okay for the family to go there. And he's always aware of his surroundings, and he's listening, and he's observing, and he's taking in whatever's going on. So that's why the rooster is the representative of the water and the metal.
It astounds me that this is why it fascinates me so much, because everything that you've said is me. You know, there is not a single thing that I would say that doesn't match my personality, my outlook, my anything. You know, it's just absolutely incredible.
It's amazing. And I was very skeptical when I started. The only reason I started learning this is because my favorite teacher ever was offering a postgraduate course. And I'd already promised myself that whatever he offered that year, I would sign up for. And you're
so pleased that you did.
I was so pleased. I was very skeptical. But from the moment that I corrected my friend about her daughter's birth date, which it turns out she'd gotten confused on, I was like, oh, okay, so there seems to be something here. And people ask me if I believe in astrology, and I would say, like, I don't believe in it, but I know that this is an incredibly useful tool, and I don't see a reason not to use an incredibly useful tool if I have it in my toolbox.
Absolutely. No, it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed that, and we'll reconvene another time, have a so you can continue the rest
Absolutely.
of
We'll go over the rest of it, but
the rest of me.
in your case, you have a very healthy personality. You're very aware of yourself. You have a lot of experience being you. And so everything felt right to you, but there wasn't necessarily any big eye-opening moments. But for people who have been cut off from developing different aspects of their personality, if they grew up in families or in cultures where some part of them wasn't accepted, or for whatever reason they didn't feel like they could really express themselves, it can be very, very helpful to do this. And just
I think it's helpful anyway. I think it would be very helpful for people like that, and I would imagine it would be very reassuring. And but even for me, I find it reassuring that that they are my traits and there's nothing wrong with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, if I had one message, it would be it's okay to be you, however you were born.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay, and the world needs you the way you are. Yeah. And I remember, just on the subject of like accepting ourselves, I did this for my aunt once. She asked, I told her, like, I was working with a client, I did a personality chart. My aunt's like, well, do my personality chart, I want to know. So I just real quick sketched it out. And I was kind of talking as I went. And at some point towards the end, I went, oh my God, you have no ability to make decisions. I would never say to a client. But, and my aunt just was silent for a minute. And then she said, well, it's not like we didn't know that. But are you saying that it's like built in? It's not that I make decisions. It's not that I'm bad at it. I can't. And I said, yeah, it's not that you're bad at it. You literally can't. You don't have that part. That part of your personality is not something that's expressed in this lifetime. She has brilliant gifts and abilities in other areas, but that's not one of them. And it was like 60 something years of feeling bad about herself because she wasn't good at making decisions, kind of relaxed.
Yes. And I always say that to people, everybody has their own gifts. We all have different gifts. Otherwise the world would be a very boring place.
Absolutely.
We're all not meant to be good at everything.
No, we are not. One of my teachers, in fact, told me, someone asked him, I'm going to end on this because I know you have to go. Someone asked my teacher, why can't we just have someone who has a perfectly balanced personality and is good at everything? And the teachers told him, because a person like that would probably never get married and they wouldn't pass on their genes, because it's so hard to live with people and to get along with people. You have to put effort into it. And so it's important that you have things that you can give and things you need to receive so that we'll all be motivated to work together.
Very good. Yes. Gosh, I could talk to you about this for ages. I could. Yes.
I started a whole YouTube channel to talk about this.
Well, exactly. Yes. And I'm very pleased, and I've already subscribed, so that's all right.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. I'm going to let you go because time marches on. Anyone who's watching and made it all the way to the end, don't forget to like and subscribe and send me a message if you want to learn more about your personality. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Heather. Thank you.
I have to find out. There's how I stop the recording.